Do you want to know one of the best ways to take care of your new car while also monitoring its health? Check out Steeda's latest premium oil separator kit for the S650's. So here is Steeda's premium S650 oil separator kit. Now, what do we have in front of us and what is included? Well, the premium kit starts with premium braided OEM quality lines. In fact, we even went the extra mile to give you OEM factory fittings at one end and AN fittings to screw into the oil separator at the other end. Now, speaking of the oil separator, we start with 6061 billet aluminum, and then we send it out and get it military spec'd hard coat anodized. What this is going to do is give you a long lasting finish. Now, when we machine these bowls in-house, we knurl the bottom of this. That's going to give you some extra grip. Speaking of extra, we've got extra capacity in this. Unlike your typical 3-ounce oil separator, we're going to hold 30% more, coming in at 4 ounces. The other thing that's unique about our oil separator kit is the filtering of it. We're one of the only kits on the market that gives you a filter that can be serviced. That's right. Maybe you want to do this every other oil change and actually change out your filter. It's something very simple to do, and we have extras available at Steeda.com. Now, as far as mounting this, what we did was design a custom bracket designed to fit the S650 Mustang. Now, it starts off as stamped steel, and we go ahead and get that black zinc plated. And the hardware, well, it's only going to be the best. Stainless steel hardware, nylock locking nut, and an aluminum spacer to get this installed at just the right height. Now, speaking of installation, let's go ahead and head to the back and show you how simple it is to install this kit and what the benefits are from having one on your Mustang. Now, the installation for the Steeda oil separator kit is pretty easy. Comes together with the bowl, your mounting hardware. Now, the first thing you want to do is you want to go ahead and screw in your different lines. Now, we've got two theories here. And that is, what side filters the oil? I'm under the belief that air is going to be sucked out of the crankcase and into the bowl. It's going to accumulate. The filter is going to stop the oil from then being pulled back to the intake manifold. Now, there's some people here at work that think, no, Scott, it's the other way. You want to come in through here, oil gets trapped in the filter, it then drops into the bowl, and then the clean air goes into the intake manifold. So we're going to do a test. We're going to run my car for 500 miles the way I think it should be, and then 500 miles the way some other people think it should be. At the end of the day, you're still getting the oil out of your PCV system, which is going to help keep your intake manifold clean, cylinder heads. So it's still going to do the job, but let's see which one does it better. So with that theory in mind, we're going to go ahead and attach the shorter hose to the side with the filter. The idea is the air is going to come in, hit the filter, drop it in the oil separator bowl. Your cleaner air is then going to go into your intake manifold. So we're going to assemble this loosely. That way we can still move the lines, and then all we got to do is just secure it together with this jam nut once you finish your installation. Once you do that, we're going to go ahead and put on our mounting bracket on the top of this, which is supplied in the kit with the 2 stainless steel bolts and the washers. And then we're going to go ahead and put it over here behind your coolant reservoir. Here's your spacer. It's going to simply go right over that. Then let's disconnect the passenger side PCV line. You can pull back on this tab, then pull up to release it. Then simply pull on the engine cover upwards to get a little bit more room underneath. The other end of the PCV line that needs to be disconnected is on the intake manifold right here behind the throttle bodies. Go ahead and set that line to the side once you get it disconnected. Get the assembled oil separator in place and begin running the longer line to the passenger side valve cover. Go ahead and pull it through until it reaches the fitting on that valve cover. Install the oil separator onto the stud of the coolant reservoir. We'll want to route the shorter line under the PCV hose and into the intake manifold connection. Make sure both ends of the line are secured in place on the fittings. To make sure the lines are secure, when you press them down, they're going to make a click sound. Then you can press the engine cover back down. Lastly, the nylock nut can be tightened down to hold it all in place. And your installation is now complete. So let's real quickly explain what a PCV system is. So basically, PCV stands for positive crankcase ventilation. We all know engines are a big, giant air pump, right? They're sucking in air. So as your pistons are moving up and down, you're also creating pressure inside the motor. So we're talking about under the pistons, where your crank, where your rods are, there is pressure in there because as everything's going up and down, heat's generating, you're gonna get pressure. Now in the old school way, you used to always see valve covers on them with breathers on them. It was like a little K&N breather, usually it had a chrome cap, but it's not a very effective system. And it's bad for the environment because you're letting all those gases right back in the atmosphere. So at some point in time, the wonderful automaker said, we're going to use the vacuum that the engine is pulling, right? It's an air pump, it's trying to suck air. It's got a lot of vacuum, especially when the throttle bodies are not fully open. When they're fully open, you usually go to zero vacuum. When they're not, it's trying to suck in air. So they're going to use the vacuum side of the intake manifold to pull out the pressure inside the crankcase. So once again, what you'll see is we don't have any breathers on top of valve covers anymore. You've got a vacuum line to the top of the valve cover that comes to the intake manifold. Now, while this is relieving some crankcase pressure, it's really only doing it at wide open throttle on the driver's side. Passenger side's different. Comes out of the valve cover and comes to the intake manifold behind the throttle body. That is where you're seeing the most vacuum. So from an OEM standpoint, that's going to work much better, especially, like I said, when you're not at wide open throttle. So that's why you commonly see people put oil separators, at least on the Coyote, on the passenger side, because that is where you're getting the most vacuum to pull those crankcase pressures out. Now, why does the OEM do that? Why don't they put it in the atmosphere? Well, like I said, it's mostly for emissions. But what's happening is that oil gets hot. Pistons going up and down, crankshaft splashing the oil. You're going to have mist, oil mist. The problem is when you're sucking it out of the valve cover and into your intake, it's gonna gunk up your intake manifold. Your cylinder head runners are going to have an oily-like residue. So that's why you'll see fuel injection cleaners talking about deposits on the backside of the intake valve. A lot of that is because of the PCV system. So it doesn't matter whether you have a Coyote, you've got a Ford Fusion, you've got an Explorer. An oil separator is an absolutely must-have to keep your engine healthy. Because what happens is with those oil vapors, they start building up on the backside of valves. You can have detonation problems. It can cause detonation because it's going to lower your fuel octane rating. You want to keep that oil out of there. You still want to keep it good for the environment. So that's why we have a separate collection can. And then every oil change, you take a look at it, you dump that out, you recycle it with the rest of your oil, but it's going to keep your engine running at its peak performance, keep the backside of those intake valves really clean, and it also is a nice little tool to kind of see what kind of shape your motor is in. We had an employee here. He had a high mileage S197. He dogged the poop out of that thing all the time. I've never seen so much oil collected in an oil separator in my entire life. So a new car, you really shouldn't get too much. You saw what we just had after about 500 miles. So we reversed the filter like we talked about, and we're gonna run for another 500 miles and see which one collects more oil. As you saw, pretty simple install. Now the beauty of this kit is it's also reversible. Let's say a year or two down the road, you want to get rid of the manual, go to an A10 automatic. You can simply pull this off, hook back up your factory line, and you can go ahead and put this on your newer car. The other thing to keep in mind is we went with 4 ounces. If you're like me, you can get a little paranoid and you kind of want to check it all the time. Now we do suggest checking it for the first time at 1,500 miles, but with the extra ounce capacity, bringing it in at 4 full ounces, you'll probably only have to check it every oil change or every other oil change. The other thing to remember, these are proudly made right here in Valdosta, Georgia, and it comes with our limited lifetime warranty. And it's serviceable, unlike some of the other kits on the market, so it allows you to change the oil filter, which we do have available at Steeda.com. So go ahead, hit like, subscribe, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, and remember, Steeda, where speed matters.